So I had a question in as well this week, and one of the big things that I always talk about is your ecosystem. And someone asked me, I don't get it, what is it, how's it working, and actually how does that relate to my business, if that makes sense? So I'm going to jump in. So your ecosystem, what is it? I'm going to use a few different examples. Hopefully they're of interest and they'll be relevant, but likewise, I'll also try and bring it back as well. So any business has a product offering, or it should certainly do. And one of the things that's always really important to do is actually stack it so that you don't just have one product that people can buy. Actually create a pyramid, an ecosystem of different levels. So what I'm going to do is build it out. So at the very top, you're expensive. You're going to have mid-tier. Oops, mid, can't write. And then I'm going to say free at the bottom. So the reason why it's really important to get an ecosystem, and I'll give you some examples on why, is that you might have a product or a service that, again, it's all about how you generate income. And a lot of people only have a certain amount of time. I'm going to use the freelancer example now, but I'm also going to go on to basically Apple, and I'll use Porsche as another one as well. So as a freelancer, probably the most expensive thing that you offer, and correct me, will be your consultancy and your time. So the issue you have, that can be very expensive, and you also have a limited amount of it. That's what most people base their business on, and actually it's good, it's profitable, and it can fund other things. But the challenge you've got, like using the example we just kind of talked about, is that you need to get more people aware of you, who you are, what you do, how it works, get them comfortable with your product range so that people can actually enter your ecosystem here, here, or here. And what it's going to do is open up your viability to a much wider audience, because you might also have people that can't afford £4 a month for consultancy, but they can afford either, say, a £300 course. And this is where it's really important to look at that. Likewise, there's a great PR company that I know down in Darlington called Harvey and Hugo, and they have paid retainers, which is the more expensive end of the market, where you get a guaranteed number of hours and support a month. But they also have something called Pay as You Go, which is their pay as you go kind of offering, which is, I guess, mid-tier. And the one thing that Charlotte does, and it's something that I do say with this, is that I think it's really important to have a free offering, which could be your social media, it could be your live streams, it could be your Instagram, it could be whichever, which allow you to demonstrate authority and expert and knowledge on a topic. Again, we cover that in the book. But actually what you're also doing is helping people and adding value who could tune into this live stream at the free level to get a feel for who you are, what you do, how it works. They might see, actually that course looks quite interesting, that could be useful for me. And what you then get the potential to do is upsell people. So you might get people that interact with you on social media, they kind of see what you're doing, think actually that could be relevant, but they only get that through exposure and that kind of thing. Then they might purchase the course, which could be £300, and get real value from that. Really helps their business grow. And then one of those people could actually say, you know what, we've got a big acquisition coming up. Steve, can we hire you properly to do the work? Obviously, this is just an example for me. But the point is, when you have your business, and it could be as a freelancer, the ability for people to access your service at multiple different levels, for one, it'll drive you more customers. It helps promote you. And again, this ticks in, a lot of those boxes to hit a lot of people at once. But it's not just, that demographic. You also have, I'll use Apple as the first one. So for instance, a lot of people have an iPhone, but with Apple, you don't just have one iPhone, which is the, 12 Pro Max, which is 1,200 quid. They've got an entry level one, which is 399. You can buy refurbished ones. But again, that's almost their entry into their ecosystem. And once they get you in that, they get you on Apple Music, they upsell you to all of their streaming services. You've got Mac computers, you have Apple Watches, you have AirPods, you have etc. But the point is, what you do is that they're looking to get you into their ecosystem on whichever product is most relevant to you. You get used to it, you get comfortable with it, and then they can upsell and cross-sell you into different services. One other example, which I'm going to use, is Porsche. So again, a very premium car brand. What they've done is create an aspirational target that a lot of people want, and it's a fantastic product. And actually, the big thing with them, and arguably with Apple, is the quality actually backs up the offer. So they regularly win awards for the best made cars in the world and that kind of thing. But even with Porsche, you start with their hero product, and we'll talk about hero products when I kind of go into Spanx, is arguably the 911, and you have the GT3 range, and they've got their kind of premium stuff. So actually, I'm going to draw this out. I'm going to use orange. So using the Porsche example, their main product is the 911, and that starts at, give or take, 90 grand. That's the car that you saw in movies growing up. It's a big thing. Even Transformers, I was a big fan of. There was a Transformer called Jazz. It was a Porsche 911 that turned into a robot, and I was obsessed with as a kid. But that is their target product, which is their main bulk thing that they sell tons of a year. But then actually, as you go down, the lowest entry, arguably, is the Boxster or Cayman, which starts about 40k. So what you've then got there, and the reason they do that, is that actually the difference between the cars isn't as big as you might think. Between real world performance difference between a Cayman, which starts at 45k, and the 911 actually isn't that big. But the Cayman doesn't necessarily have the same level of prestige, which is what you also kind of buy into, is the 911. But then again, when people go into their ecosystem, they also have the 918 supercar, which is, so it's 918, give or take £1 million. And then if you've got the money, you've got all the support and all the things you can do, what they essentially look to do is get you in through the ecosystem to actually kind of, have the aspirational hero products that you want, but they can get you in on the journey. But then likewise, once you buy the car, it's funny actually, so in the past, I've had Cayman, but I also had a Mercedes E-Class quite recently. And even though Mercedes is in theory a luxury car brand, and it was, it was a great car and that kind of thing, I didn't feel loved as well. When Porsche get into their ecosystem, they send you a quarterly magazine. It's really nicely made. There's aspirational stuff in there, but they make you feel loved all the time. But what they're trying to do is get you into their ecosystem and then keep you for the next 30, 40 years. And they do that through making really good products, deliver on what they say. But likewise, in terms of their products, a lot of people might say, yeah, but 40k is still really expensive, which it obviously is for a car. But what they also have is all of their merch, and then actually TV, and actually Porsche isn't in Formula One, but they do different types of racing. But there's a lot of toys and posters and whatever, and arguably that then, and the social media, if you're into your cars on YouTube, you can always watch car reviews and stuff. And actually that's a great way to get people into their ecosystem, to sell the dream, and then they gradually work people up. So that in the basis is how you build an ecosystem for a business. This is as true for any business. It doesn't matter what you make, there's always things you can do. And the idea is it's how you can get people into your working with you, to understand you, to get a feel for you. And even a simple way to do that, if you were to say, I'm trying to think of a good example. So if you work for a company that makes oil rigs, it could be a really big fabricator. Whilst it's very difficult for them to have a cheaper product that would be accessible to everyone, they don't have to, but what they can do is still demonstrate knowledge and experience on a topic via social media, which anyone that's interested in engineering, energy, whichever is interested in, which makes the person and the people behind the company accessible, which then will help them drive more sales. And it's easier for people to then get in touch through doing this. So it almost doesn't matter what your product is and what you sell, you can still create an ecosystem. And I promise you that if you kind of get this right and build it, it's really, really valuable. So it's just something I wanted to touch on. There we go. And just in case anyone's interested, what I also do is I clip all these up as separate videos that go onto YouTube. So if you ever search for Steve Pugh, Roadmap MBA, or even just ecosystem or whichever business ecosystem, hopefully they'll pop up on YouTube and you can watch just those clips as well.